Welcome, Eunice. Welcome to another match highlight analysis. This week 2 of VRML, we have Ethereal versus Spaghetti. So let's jump into the first clip. We have Clear coming down. He gets picked back up by Spaghetti, who makes a back pass to Oculus Hitter. It was a little bit loose though, but he picks it back up. Managed to get the stun off on single shot. Then makes this nice slow controlled pass back. Meatballer finds Ao on the floor. Ao finds Connemara cutting in, and Connemara makes the play, getting them the 2 points. So what happened here basically is, even though this pass is missed, Oculus Hitter does a good job of recovering it off the wall, getting the stun, and they're making a very safe pass here, because right now the way that the field is set up, Oculus Hitter's get this player who's stunned out, but won't be for long. He's going to be back soon. And his other two players, the lanes are pretty covered right now. So Meatballer's really his only pass. Now you can see here then Mozzie pushes up out of this lane that he was covering from Oculus Hitter and moves to Meatballer. Now single shot's still here, so now they have two players that are at about bow tie, which means they've only got the goalie and then they got the one player in the bubble versus with two players on the bubble here. So Spaghetti doing a good job of recognizing this, makes a very quick pass to the floor. This player who's playing the only player on the bubble is forced to pressure this, otherwise I was just going to walk this straight up into the goal and take a 1v1. And so Jiggy pressures down, but then that leaves Connemara open on the pole for the pass, and they basically just put themselves in a winning position there. So the only way that after this stun and single, it's better if they've got 8:30 left in the clock, they're only down by 1 point, there's no need to rush like this. What they can do is either Mozzie can wait back a little bit longer for and then push up once single shot's gotten a bit more of a head start back towards goal, or single shot also is going up here towards the block instead of just going immediately straight back. He's trying to cover the Oculus Hitter lane, but he's got two passes here with only one player covering them. So instead of prioritizing Oculus Hitter as a pass, since he's not an immediate threat on the goal, it would have been better to move to the floor immediately instead of going up to the block there, then moving to Oculus Hitter's lane. Because then these two players, this player here is a really big threat on the goal, has to be answered by Jiggy. Jiggy finds Ao and does get the coverage on him, forces the pass. But unfortunately, because of the situation they were in with two players pressuring outside the bubble, the only way that Ethereal walks away from this losing position without getting scored on is if somebody makes a bit of a step-up play. Either Jiggy gets a really good stun or a pick here off of this pass, which doesn't happen, or CJason is able to score a goal on a rapid cut already inside the block zone, which is really hard to do, and eventually Spaghetti does score off of this. The next clip here, we have Ethereal going off at Joust. We have them going with the classic one person each side, one person top mid. The pass gets through the top mid player, goes back down to the left player, and a cross pass to the right player. It was a little bit wide, unfortunately. Ends up in a brawling situation where one player on Spaghetti gets stunned, but Spaghetti does eventually get the clear off there. Now, this rollout is a pretty standard rollout for most teams. Most teams will have this in their arsenal somewhere where they send one player to each side and one player top mid, basically just to give the QB as many options as possible. Not any short options. Well, some short-ish options if they go to the walls like this. But it gives the QB a lot of options, but it's also relatively easy to see and cover. And you can see Spaghetti tries to do this. They've got a player here kind of cheating towards the left wall, player here trying to cheat towards the right wall. Unfortunately, because both these players stopped pretty early, these players are not being covered really. And then when this pass comes through to the top mid, we can see the player that was covering the right tube here, or was like sort of covering the right tube, immediately pushes up towards the disc. Now there's two players covering this because this player missed the pick on the pass. We have the player covering the left tube also pushes up onto the player, which leaves this player wide open and then the player on the right wide open. Now if this pass is connected, which unfortunately it didn't, this would have been a really strong position for Ethereal. But basically what's going wrong here and why Ethereal was able to take what looked like not a great start to this play, where they're doing a good rollout and they do have a lot of open players. Spaghetti unfortunately is kind of, for some reason, not just they're cheating towards the desk too much. All of them are truly trying hard for that midfield pick, and so instead of covering their men, instead of leaving this one player to one player and each player covering their own respective player and forcing maybe a back pass here or something, they all collapse on this mid player, and that leaves him with multiple open passes. Even though, if we look back to the beginning, this top mid player is probably the worst pass option out of all three of these, because Spaghetti collapsed so hard on it. and he's able to avoid getting stunned for a few seconds before he passes the disc. That's actually ends up in a really good position for Ethereal, where they have two open players moving down across the bottom of the arena. The Spaghetti does get a really quick chain, but again, that chain gets stunned right here. So if this pass had connected, they would have in a really strong position. Mozzie here never got stunned, so he's moving up. He's another open pass here that might be covered in this lane, but he could easily move to the ceiling, get out of that lane coverage, and be open there. And basically just Spaghetti, instead of trusting their teammates, because we do see here that after the pass came off, this pick lane was a little bit too short. I was just getting a little bit there, a little bit too late, and not quite able to get the pick off. But just because he missed that pick doesn't mean that his two teammates should immediately collapse on that player, because that just leaves these two players open. And so instead of this mid player catching the disc, getting just past his coverage, and then maybe walking it up mid a little bit, just at 4.7 max, he's able to, because he gets collapsed on, find these passes, and then that moves the disc up a lot further. And again, if this play had connected, it would have been really a pretty easy goal for Ethereal, I think, because of the way they were moving up. But unfortunately, the pass didn't connect, and so it didn't come together. So Spaghetti got a little bit lucky there that this pass missed. But otherwise, a really good play from Ethereal, just getting open, taking advantage of the situation, even though it didn't pan out, and Spaghetti kind of collapsing there. Maybe not putting as much trust in their teammates as they needed to. But yeah, on the next clip. Now we go to the next clip here. We have the disc moving up to the ceiling. Oculus Hitter gets a stun out, goes down to post, takes a shot, gets a good save from the goalie there, gets cleared back up, picked up by Jiggy. Makes, unfortunately, a bit of a bad clear there and bounces down into the bottom trench. Spaghetti is able to pick that back up, find their player on the side, and move forward and get themselves a goal. Nothing too exciting about that immediately, but if we go back, we can see here that even though this clear looks really bad immediately, there's not a whole lot of better options, because you can see Konamara's playing this block. Because he's anchored, he's got a pretty wide range of motion up and down and even to the side. So this whole tunnel here is not really available as a clear lane. That's pretty much being cut off entirely by Konamara here. This opposite tunnel obviously is an option because it's open, but that's pretty tight angle because of the blocks in the way. It's not something that you're going to be looking for immediately. It's not something you could really find. And then we can also see that this player here, bounces off the block and immediately covers right before the disc is released. The angle is not great, but he's moving towards it. He's covering a decent portion of the mid. He can maybe bottom mid could have been open. Top mid was also open, but again, it would have needed to hit probably this diagonal part here to get through. And so even though this clear looks a little bit like there's a lot of space where he couldn't have hit this block, Spaghetti actually did a good job definitely covering this tunnel, forcing him to look towards the mid lane, which was also partially covered. Now, obviously, there is ways he could have cleared this. He could have gone cross tunnel and maybe hit the slot right here. He could have bounced it off the rad logo down here and got it through mid that way. But again, that's something that's hard to look for, and it's a lot easier to find in hindsight. But with the player drifting towards mid there, the top mid play, honestly, is probably the best immediately noticeable option. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. He clipped the edge of the block there. That's Spaghetti covering a lot of the lanes, actually forcing him to go for that maybe difficult clear, and not so much as a player just being just not good and just clearing into the blocks. Now we go down here, we can see that even though this disc is loose right now off of the aforementioned bad clear, you see 1, 2, 3, we got 6 players moving towards the disc. Now Konamara here realizes that there's a lot of players going for the disc here, and he's going to stop. He stops at the top block, so in case his teammates do get the disc and win it, which they do, he's now an open pass here. We've also got the other players that weren't involved in the play, because we said before there were only 6 players converging on the disc instead of the 8 in the game. We've got also Meatballer playing, maybe noticing it a little bit earlier than Konamara did, and just playing an outlet pass. So that if his teammates do win this position, he realizes that there's immediately, even if they do win it, there's immediately going to be a bunch of players on them, which there absolutely is. Oculus Hitter is sitting here with the disc, but he's got 2 players in front of him, putting up a block. Looks like, I think he's getting stunned here. I can't quite tell. And another player coming down from above. So he's going to need a pass quickly. Now, Konamara is providing one of those passes. Meatballer is also providing a little bit more of aggressive and a little bit, frankly, a little bit more easily to see pass. And so Oculus Hitter is able to quickly get it out of that trouble zone, get it to Meatballer, and then Meatballer putting himself in that offensive situation. Now, the last Ethereal player who didn't join that scrum for the disc, was actually staying back in goal, just in case that, again, Spaghetti was able to get the disc and take a quick shot. He did prevent the shot from happening, but unfortunately, because Spaghetti put themselves in really good positions for an outlet pass, it doesn't matter, because Meatballer can catch the disc here, move in, and even if he didn't go for the shot, he still had this pass to Konamara, which maybe is a little bit covered, but this pass was definitely still partially open after the goalie dove him. And so at that point, Konamara and Meatballer, realizing that in that situation, there's a lot of people going for the disc and that they didn't need to be part of that. There's a really good job from both of them realizing the situation, and instead of diving in and trying to help, they realize they can help more by playing outside the zone and being an outlet pass. So just trusting that even if their teammates win, you want to be able to actually make sure that they can take advantage of winning that brawl. Because if all 4 players are in here and Spaghetti gets the disc and wins the brawl, they don't have anything to do with it. The best they can do is maybe just take a shot on goal, but again, there's a goalie there, so it's not really going to work. And for Ethereal, because they have the one back pass to goal, but if they win the disc, the only thing they can really do is just clear it and then maybe try and get a chain together. But getting a chain together when you have 2 players right on top of you is going to be pretty difficult. And I mean, obviously we won't know how it would have played out, but I think Konamara and Meatball are getting together around this nugget block area would have been a lot quicker, and maybe they would have recovered the disc. So I don't think even if Ethereal had won this, that they would have been able to get a goal off it, because getting a boost out of this area here would have been incredibly difficult to do. So jumping to our next clip here, we have a clear going down towards the side of Ethereal. We have one player who looks like he got a quick boost coming back into goal. Another quick boost chain from Ethereal comes back. The back pass to the chain. See Jason single shot trying to get a boost there. Unfortunately, the clear goes off a little bit of a weird piece of geometry. Luckily, Jiggy's still there to pick it up. Makes a pass to Mozzie, and Mozzie takes the shot on goal. Unfortunately, digging off just a little bit too low there. But and so that's not the important part of the clip. The important part of the clip is the way that Ethereal handles these clears. So first player back doesn't know the boosting situation. There's a stack from his stack is already coming back, but there's also the stack from Spaghetti that looks like they're getting ready to go and aren't too far behind. So he's going back to the goal, doing a decent job. His teammates do get there first. And then because Jiggy handles the disc, the other player part of the chain, I think a single shot, is able to get together with the goalie, then get a quick pass to them, and then they can make it clear and then try to make a boost. Unfortunately, the chain does get broken up, and the boosters get broken. But an important thing to notice is that after this pass comes back from Jiggy to the goal, he sort of just moves back into a position here where he's not actually pushing up. He's just moving up to this block, I think, and he stops because this clear does go bad. And so he doesn't get ahead of himself, because the thing a lot of teams do is that when they go for clears, they'll throw the disc and then immediately start boosting, try to get to the other side as fast as possible. And if something like this does happen, where the clear isn't good and it bounces back or it gets picked, then they're way out of position. But now Jiggy does a good job of staying back, so that even if this clear, see, he moved back to nest before he moves to catch this disc, because it did indeed hit some bad geo and unfortunately get cleared badly. He's able to pick it up and make the quick pass to Mozzie. But another thing that happens here is right after Jiggy picks this disc up, we can see Jason is actually rotating back to the position that Jiggy was in, where he's sitting on the right here when this pass made happen. Jiggy moved back to the nest, moved back to the middle in case the clear was bad, which it was. And so because Jiggy moved back, waiting for that clear, being patient, he's able to pick it back up. And right after Jiggy moves to handle this disc, see Jason moves back to the same position Jiggy was in, where he's there just in case the clear goes bad. Either it gets picked by Spaghetti or it hits some weird geo and bounces backwards. They're not going to give up a free 3-pointer, because they've got the player back here who can either recover a bad bounce or who is there to deny an easy 3-pointer. So moving that back player back to there until the disc is actually out of your zone is a very smart thing that they're doing here. Doing a good job rotating it, having Jiggy in that position first when the chain cleared it, and then as Jiggy moves to pick this disc up and clear it to, or pass it to Mozzie rather, see Jason moves back to fill that position just in case something goes bad here. But it doesn't go bad that time, and so see Jason ultimately doesn't get used there, and Mozzie is able to get out of the zone onto the other side. And then because Jiggy picks this disc up and passes it to Mozzie at midfield, he can immediately head back to see Jason here, and they can try and get a boost together. See, as they move in together, they can try and get some pressure. Either if the disc gets cleared past them, they can pick it together. Unfortunately, the clip ends there, but basically just doing a good job of not getting ahead of themselves on clearing the disc, because if you throw the disc and then by the time it gets to tunnel, you're already boosting, you're already now the stack can do this, because that's okay that the stack's doing this, because they have that player coming back in case the disc bounces badly. But a lot of teams you'll see is that they'll get easy goal scored on themselves, because they'll stun the other team out, clear the disc, boost down, but then the disc will either get picked or bounce weirdly, and they'll just end up getting a 3-pointer scored on them because they're all boosted out of their zone already, and there's nobody to defend the goal. And Ethereal's doing a good job to combat that, even though it doesn't actually ever get picked by Spaghetti and they never take a shot. They still do have this bad clear, or this bad bounce that gets picked back up. And again, they're covering that position, even in case it does happen, even though it's not happening. In case it does, they're there. And we jump into the last clip of the video, where we have a pass from Spaghetti down to Connemara. Connemara is able to duck the defender there. Juke on the floor, waiting for a little bit for his teammates to get in the goal. Pass to Meatballer, and makes a little bit of a spin dunk there, putting them up by another 3 points in round 2. Now, again, this play looks pretty straightforward with the surface, but we see, so Connemara has one player sort of with him, straight above him actually, then pushes into goal here off the shoulder, takes the goalie out. Unfortunately, took out the goalie a little bit too late, so we couldn't quite call it. The goalie was stunned, so Connemara goes for the pass here instead. But what we want to look at actually is for this clip, I want to look at everybody that's not the disc right now. So we've got this group right here where we see one of the players gets stunned, gets a pull off, and we see these players just flying back into goal, even though this Spaghetti player is stunned in the backfield, and this player is behind, as we can see later in this clip, behind Mozzie in a single shot, coming in behind them. We can see Mozzie a little bit caught off guard that the player receives that pass and is unable to get to him. And then Meatballer is able to, again, on the stunned goalie, because Oculus Hitter is spreading the pressure, get that dunk off. And this is an example of players maybe going a little bit of autopilot mode and kind of panicking. You can see here the juke on the floor. Having a player juking on the floor this close to your goal right at the edge of the 3-point bubble, definitely not something you want to have happening. Definitely a little bit scary. But also having your goalie having pressure on, surely giving comms that he's stunned. And so these players are just kind of flying back to goal. They won this brawl, but they're moving back. And so instead of maybe stopping on shield, looking for where the back pass is, because ultimately if you do actually look at the situation, the goalie's stunned, but this player's not in a great angle to hit that goal. And even if he does, there's not much you can do about it anyway from here. Like, them flying back isn't actually helping. If this player hadn't shot the disc yet and takes a shot on the stunned goalie, these two players aren't going to be able to stop that, doing what they're doing right now. Now, so this player is also, even though he is doing a pretty good job of holding the disc and juking out the defensive player there, he's still covered, and so him pushing up to the goal is more of a failure on the defensive player's fault than it is something that they can do anything about. So them flying back to the goal isn't really accomplishing anything for them. This goalie is going to be stunned, and it's going to be somebody in the backboard, regardless of them flying back at this speed or not. This player is going to either beat or get beat by this defensive player, regardless of where they're going. And so they need to, in this situation, these players need to recognize that they aren't going to be able to stop anything that happens in this little sort of oval here. And they need to look, even though they stun this player out, this player's still cutting in. And so either one of them stopping on the shield, looking for where their fourth player is, and seeing that Meatballer, again, is cutting in right behind him, which it looks like based on the reaction, I mean, I think it's fair to say that Mozzie didn't even realize this pass was coming, didn't know the player was on him, because it looks like, to me at least, that he got really caught off guard that there was a player that close to him. But yeah, I don't know. I think always keeping a mental note in your head of where all 4 of the enemy players are is super important. And we can see here at the beginning of the clip that Meatballer, again, is coasting in. These players beat this player, so in both of their minds, they should know that this player is stunned. And he, if anything, is just going to be a back pass. They obviously know where the disc is, because that's what everybody's looking at in the arena right now. And then because of either comms or because they can also see it, they probably know that this player is on the backboard as well, stunning the goalie. But again, it doesn't look to me, based on where all the players are looking, that they ever really, none of them have any idea where Meatballer is on the arena, which is a pretty big mistake, especially in Master Tier, just not knowing where a player is, not knowing where a player could come from. And oftentimes, if you don't know where a player is, you either clear right into their hands, or you'll have a situation like this where you didn't even know they were making a cut, and they'll just walk it right down the middle into your goal. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the video. I just wanted to come in quickly at the end to say, basically, just thanks for watching. If you want to have some sort of say in what happens in the next videos, which matches I review, either in Master Tier, or maybe we'll start moving out of the Diamond in the next couple weeks, see what goes on down there. Just basically give me a follow on Twitter at RoxTytan. That's usually where I post polls like this about people, about which match I should review, basically, if I find a couple interesting ones in a week. I also might start doing something where I would do some videos like these, but privately, maybe a bit more in depth at a commission. I don't know exactly where I'd put the price point or something like that, but just let me know again, either in DMs on Discord, in the comments of this video, or on Twitter, what you think about that. And thanks so much for watching again. Peace.